Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Fireside Chat, Mustard Hub Voices Behind the Build, where we talk with people building, backing, and running better workplaces. I'm your host, Curtis Forbes. My guest today is Doug Rixmann. Doug is the co-founder and CEO of OwlOps. OwlOps is a task and maintenance management app that helps you improve communication, enhance accountability, and eliminate the paper shuffle in your restaurant operation. He's a computer science professional and a dedicated volunteer firefighter, always driven by a passion for serving his community and solving problems. Doug likes to keep active outside of work through CrossFit-style workouts and pushing his limits by training for triathlons. He's a happily married father to 2 teenagers, and he loves to travel and explore new places with his family. Welcome to Mustard Hub Voices, Doug.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
First question before we jump in, how did you get started volunteer firefighting?
Oh, yeah. So, well, I guess that takes me back a long time. I've been an active volunteer with Norfolk Fire Department here for the last 11 years. But
Oh, wow.
when I was going through university, I hit and missed a bunch of things. I started as an engineer, and then I went to business school, and then I went to kinesiology. And in the midst of all of that, I took a firefighting program, which I really, really enjoyed. Then I knew that I couldn't just do firefighting. I had to have something to fall back on. Went and did computer science, but ended up serving in my university town as a volunteer firefighter. And then when 11 years ago here in the town of Simcoe in Ontario, I decided that I'd rejoin, and it's great. It's a great little addition to serve the community, but also as an entrepreneur working from home, it gives me a little bit of an outing.
Yeah, get you out of the house.
Get you out of the house, get you out of the basement. So yeah, it's a great thing. I love doing it. I love helping people, but there's a little adrenaline rush with some of that too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about OwlOps. How do you explain it to folks in other industries?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, our core focus has always been multi-unit QSR, quick service restaurants.
Okay.
So explaining it to them is pretty easy. You know, we always I created it for my family's Tim Hortons operation. So it was very easy to explain it that we help out with all the little odds and ends when you're leaving at the end of the day and someone's yelling over the counter, "Oh, by the way, the soap dispenser's hanging off the wall." The whatever it might be. There's always these things that would typically get
Yeah.
a napkin message slid under the door, or whatever way that you use to communicate, text message and everything else. So QSR, it's pretty straightforward. For other industries, it's just simply, I like to say it's a way to communicate for people that aren't typically back at their computers. It's a project management tool, a task management tool, where you don't want your team sitting back at a computer. You want something that's super easy, simple for your team to be able to use, just to keep everybody in the loop as to what's going on.
So
So I
tell
guess
me more
that's
about those organizations that OwlOps is best for. I'm really curious, maybe, or that you thought would be attracted to it, before and shortly after, you launched it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my family's Tim Hortons was at the time 4 locations, I think, and that
Okay.
was in 2009. My brother contacted me and said, "There's got to be a better way." Had a great team, but they were dropping the ball on a lot of the little things, and so our thought was there was tools out there, but they were very big, expensive, but seemed to be designed for larger groups. So I just created this thing just for my family, just for him and his team, and it was just for simplicity. Um, the what we thought at the time was it might actually be good for like a mom and pop shop. Charge very, very small amounts of money for them to be able to use it in a very, very small organization. And we were kind of thought that the big guys were served, but the little guys, the guys that have 1, 2, 3 locations, that was going to be our target. What we found is that 1, 2, and 3 is not really our target. The guys that really find this interesting are 5 to 8, up to 50 to 100, and one of our customers actually has 1,200 restaurants that uses this as an operations tool. So what our original thought was like that mom and pop shop, but now really our niche is kind of that 10 to 50 locations, and there's groups that use it outside of that range, but that's kind of that niche of where it's just a no brainer.
And franchise in the franchise world specifically, right? I mean, is there something particular about franchisees that drew you in, or was it primarily the fact that this is where you find those multi-unit owners?
Yeah, I think, the starting point obviously was with our family and being involved with QSR.
Yeah.
The immediate growth of the business was because of our network within QSR as well. So our first 5 customers, I think, were other Tim Hortons operators. And then from Tim Hortons became McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, Subways, and on and on. And that's been our core focus. Being a small company, you don't want to spread yourselves too thin.
Right.
The marketing groups always say riches are in the niches. You want to keep focused. But what we've seen in the last little while is growth outside in other multi-unit environments, C-stores, convenience stores, gas stations. We're getting into some small hotels, and other people that utilize or have multi-unit, that they just need a better way to communicate, a simple way to communicate, cost effective, very simple to implement.
Love
And that's
that.
what we do.
So before OwlOps, how did you get here? I mean, what did your career journey look like? What did you think your future would look like?
Yeah. So, well, after jumping from the engineering to business to kinesiology to firefighting, I went on and I did complete a computer science degree.
Okay.
So that was my degree that I came out of university with, and then I got a job with, lo and behold, a point of sale provider for Tim Hortons.
Oh, okay.
So it mixed my background from like when I was 12,
Mhm.
working in my family's business, up until, it mixed my background of Tim Hortons and computer science, put that together, and I end up here in Ontario working for a point of sale provider for Tim Hortons.
Ironically enough, probably putting out fires. Just the other kind.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The point of sale is always about putting out fires.
Right.
Um, yeah. And so that was my start. And that company did movie theater, point of sale, as well as QSR and Tim Hortons, Harvey's, and some others. Um, and yeah, that was really my start. I went on and did some other things between there and now, where I started this business. But I was working in manufacturing, senior level manager, in charge of IT and marketing and products and different things. But then quick service restaurants pulled me back in.
Yeah. Well, were there what made you I know that OwlOps kind of was born out of solving this problem, but you eventually productized it, right? What made you want to launch a tech company? Were there specific problems you were obsessed with solving? Was this one of them? I mean, I'm always really curious about what drives others to this sort of entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that there was any one particular drive.
Mhm.
Being a senior manager in the company that I was in, I was working long, long, long hours and had 2 young kids, and there was some transition going on with that company at the time, coupled with the fact that in 2009 I created this for my family, and over a number of years, we were kind of like, we should really make a product out of this.
Hmm.
This could be something that other people could use. But we'd always be like, but you know, that's okay. But I have a good job, and it's stable, and I'm doing this. And then the next year, we'd be like, you know what, we should really make this into a product and get it out there. And that happened for 3 years, 4 years. And then people started asking us, some people in our network, can I use that too? And what I had created on the couch for my brother's company, who were using Blackberries as their device, didn't work for other types of devices. And
Okay.
so I started looking at what would it take to make that change. And I'm kind of an all-in guy or not in at all. And I was, very gainfully employed working with this other company, but decided, you know what, other people started asking for it. Let's make a go of it. My wife and I talked about it, thought it was the right decision. And that was in November of 2013. Made the decision, left my other position, and decided to give it a go.
I love that. I mean, that's a great story. Um, how? Tell me about the name OwlOps.
Yeah. So originally it was called Fixit.com, Fyxyt.com. And because when we created it, it was all about maintenance. That's the
Mm,
whole purpose of it,
okay.
was what could we do for maintenance? Very shortly after I took it to market, 2013, 2014, our customers started saying, hey, that's a great accountability and communications tool. Can I use it for other things in my business? So things like, hey, can you bring me a box of cups? Can you, get me a scraper or hairnets from the head office? Those types of requests that, again, were text messages, were napkins slid on the door, put up on the whiteboard. And so we've started to broaden we were pigeonholed as Fix It, and people couldn't spell it back when,
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, back in the day when we were trying to be niche and cool and a little retro, or I don't
Hmm.
know, trying to be cool with the spelling. Um, but anyway, people couldn't spell it, and we started to broaden from just maintenance. And so I was trying to think of what to do with it, and was in church on a Sunday, and probably not listening to the sermon very well. And my wife, I remember, was next to me, probably writing her grocery list for the upcoming week. And I kept on thinking, like, some of the really key softwares that are out there, Mailchimp, right?
Mhm.
Survey Monkey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that were animal and purpose, animal and purpose, animal and purpose. And so I started thinking, and you're also trying to figure out what things are available and what domain names might be available and what else has been used or whatnot. Anyway, came up with owl being wise, knowledgeable, and then ops being operations.
Yeah.
And so owl ops.
It works.
It works, and
It works.
it's worked. And we have to correct people's southern pronunciation on owl sometimes, but but we get called owls op, we get called owl ops, but some people just call us the owl. Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
we're using the owl. And,
as long as they're calling, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then it's, I guess it's all okay. I love that. I mean, and I love its purpose helps it helps people, I think, rapidly identify, communicate about, and solve these problems that exist. you know Problems, being a very generic, um I think, term here, which is really, really cool. And giving people those kind of tools, obviously, then I think help lead to a better experience all around in employment, right? Customers, probably, right? Because you're really enabling people to, I think, more rapidly, I think, solve their general problems. But How often do you see people challenges getting in the way of progress, right? That maybe the app can't solve.
Yeah. So one of the fundamental pieces, or one of I guess we call it our performance matrix. That we introduce this to our potential customers, and it shows what you're saying with the people side of things and how people are feeling in your team and what your culture is. So on one axis is how quickly you are getting things done, and the other axis is how many things you are actually getting done. Because you can get a lot of things done, but it's very, very slow. And
It's true.
what that is complacency. People are not very, they're like, it'll get taken care of, but there's no urgency. On the other end of that, where you're getting things done quickly, but you don't get many of those things done, you're in a firefighting mode, right? And some people like that because it's fast paced. But if you ask your maintenance guy if he's always spinning his wheels, he's always chasing the next emergency.
Hmm.
And your managers aren't very happy with it, right? So
Right.
on both sides, your complacency, your firefighting, or just everybody's angry because you're not getting anything done and nothing's getting slowly. So we talk about culture, and if you're in any one of those zones, we can help move you along. But the challenges that we see in implementing is sometimes, and I think this is primary, the biggest concern, or the threshold to success with something like this,
Hmm.
is that the sometimes the operators, the owners, are catering too much to the lower end of their of their assets, their people assets, as opposed to really trying to make life easier for their top guys. Their top guys are they want the next technology, they want the best tools, they're not afraid to try things. And I think sometimes the complacency, or the fear of upsetting some of the lower end of your workforce,
Hmm.
kind of um, restricts you from moving forward.
Yeah,
That makes
that's a really interesting perspective on that. How do good leaders elevate that lower tier, or is it just a matter of better incentivizing or catering to the top tier so that they,
pull them along.
yeah, I mean, what do you generally see?
Well, what I find is it's tough, especially in the QSR realm where there's
Yeah,
so much turnover.
yeah. About
And
100 and what, 130% annually?
yeah, it's large, and depending on which state you're in, or where you're
Yeah.
centered. Um, so it's a definite challenge for the owners, operators, the director of operations, to kind of balance it. It is a balancing act. You don't want to push too hard, but you also want to help them with getting to that next level, which will ultimately help them, because if they have a restaurant that works for them,
Mhm.
then they're dealing with less customer complaints. Which,
Mhm.
if you've ever dealt with a customer complaint, it's not a feel good moment when you're going
No.
home after somebody's been yelling at you because every time I come in here, the ice cream machine is broken, or there's no ice for
Mhm.
my soda, or whatever, right? So putting those systems in place will help overall, but there's a resistance to put some systems in place, because with many of the brands that we deal with too, corporate is continually introducing new things and new initiatives and new products. And so they're drinking from the fire hose to a certain degree, of always having something new coming up. So they have to be careful with introducing too much new, even if
Right,
some of that new will benefit the team.
right.
Um, yeah, but
I
changing the culture to help, I think it's the reason of why are we doing certain things, and that can be even the corporate things. So why are we introducing a new chicken sandwich? Well, it's to help compete against this and this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think engaging your team, or they don't engage the team because, well, you know what, they're just here to do their shift. They're just they're QSR employees, right? But I think a lot of people would do a lot better if they were informed of the why behind things.
It's interesting, right? Because, talking about people issues, that restaurant leaders, even just multi-unit leaders in a variety of different industries, not even necessarily just restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
things that they might overlook when they're trying to fix, tech problems, ops problems, or introduce new things. I would assume that, clear, direct comms is a big issue here, and it's kind of exactly what you're talking about. I mean, if you leave people out of the conversation and just expect them to blindly follow you, I mean, some people will, but better engaging them so that they kind of understand the purpose for which they might be doing something, right? It seems like something that OwlOps solves.
Yeah, communication is one of the fundamental pieces of what we do. Whether it's the act of communicating, so we do generate text messages, we do generate in-app messages, we do generate emails through the system, but we also have the active list of things that people need to do, or that anybody among the
Yeah.
team can collaborate with. But like, even in my senior management days, working with a manufacturing company, I remember a strat planning session, and we had a number of them over the years, and every single time everything boils down to communication. Oh, if
Yeah.
only we communicated better. If only we communicated better, that will help us achieve, whatever KPI or whatever objective we're trying to do. And that doesn't have to be in a strategic session of an executive team. That can be, my son was working at a McDonald's, and he knew, and good from the managers and the owners of that place, he knew what the drive-through time objectives were, and so he would try to beat that, or meet that. Communication and goal setting is huge, and you can't hold someone to account on a goal
When
that
they
they don't know about.
Yeah, when they don't even know what
Yeah,
it is that they're being held accountable
yeah,
to.
exactly.
So, when you're helping businesses solve these issues, what patterns have you noticed in how teams succeed or stumble, right? When putting your recommendations into practice, right? Setting up, streamlining processes and things like that. I'm curious to hear like common threads that you see in those that do well and those that, you know, frankly don't.
Yeah, being a little bit of an online business, it's tough to see the real feet on the ground type of things. But some of the good practices that we see
Yeah.
are weekly meetings with your
Mm.
managers,
Okay.
um, where and I know my brother does this, and they use our dashboard. And what he found years and years ago when they started doing this every week was, when your team knows that there's going to be a meeting, and it's a regular meeting, and there's objectives, um, they would go in the night before so that they all knew exactly what was going to come up on that dashboard, and they would make sure that everything was up to date. So by making it available, and having those open conversations amongst the entire team, you're not hiding
Yeah.
anything. There's no cloak and dagger type
Right.
of thing. We're not trying to get you. We're going to talk about these things. Make sure, and we're here to help. So it's a matter of making sure that it's out there. Make sure that your team knows that, um, this is not private information. Putting a soap dispenser on the wall in a washroom isn't, you know private information. It's just something that we need to get done, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we're going to talk openly about it. There's no hidden agendas of trying to pull a gotcha on it. We're going to use this tool to help get things done, so that we're satisfying our customers, so that they're not complaining,
Right.
that everyone's going to have a better you know I don't know, better day because of it.
Better experience. Yeah, of
And
course.
and as a management team, you're not going to waste your time following up about mundane little things. You're going to now use your skill set to help elevate your team. So I think openness is one of the big things. Being open with your team, making sure that you know that your team understands the objectives and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Um, Again, it comes back to communication, open communication.
Communication, alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Accountability, all things here that sort of influence outcomes in these situations. And these are all things that OwlOps supports,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Tell me some other ways that organizations can make things better, either beyond using OwlOps, or what are some other things OwlOps can do that maybe we haven't touched on, or that others don't really know about?
Well, I think it's taking action from data. I think that's one other piece. You can use a tool like this for a year, a month, or 3 years. If you're not going to take action on the things that you learn,
Mhm.
then you yourself as a leader in your company, you maybe you need to take that step. So what I mean by that is, we're putting all this information together based on the inputs from your team, and so now, you'll be able to see that. Oh, look, our cream machine, the coffee dispenser, or
Yeah.
or something sugar dispenser. We're having continual issues with that certain piece of equipment. How can we? Does that mean that we need to do training? Does that mean that we need to do a better preventive maintenance? Does that mean that we need to go back to our manufacturer and say what's going on?
Get a new one.
So taking the information that you have, it's so easy to do day to day and get fixated on day to day. But that's when you, as an executive team, as an operations team, needs to take it back and go, okay, the last year we've had these things. Now, do we need to implement the preventive maintenance? Do we need to do preventive cleaning? Or do we need to inspect them more often?
Yeah.
So implement a digital cleaning checklist or something like that. All of these things that we can help with for sure. But we're a tool that helps you do them. You have to it's not just plug in the tool and everything's going to be hunky dory.
Right.
You really need to use your smarts as an operations
Yeah.
person, the expert in the business, and that's what we always say. You're the expert in your business. We're the expert
Mhm.
at OwlOps. We'll help you do whatever you need to with OwlOps, or tell you we can't.
Right.
But you know,
I love actually that you brought this up. So, Mustard Hub is all about data, people signals,
mhm.
etc. I'm really curious, when it comes to data and systems, um, or these kind of, actionable insights, do you ever notice a disconnect between, what people are tracking, what actually drives those results, right? What things that your users are actually paying attention to versus what might benefit their organization, right? Because there's a lot of things out there, and it's really filtering that noise from those signals. Do you ever see that, or being that disconnect?
Hmm.
You brought up some really good, for example, you brought up some really good ones about, there's things here that we notice are happening repeatedly, right? Because we're seeing this happening repeatedly, here are the things that we need to now go and evaluate. Do you
Yeah,
see some? Yeah,
yeah, for sure. And again, going to the data, one of the interesting things that we pulled out of the data there, when we were doing analysis after, I think, 2 million tasks or something that were logged in the system, the word again and the word still appeared in about
wow,
10% of the tasks or work orders that were entered.
that's really really interesting.
So seeing that, you got to start to think, okay, well, what can we do so that it's not the ice maker is still not working, or the
Right.
hand dryer is broken again. right? So what can you do? And again, it comes back to taking the information that is there and figuring out how, number one, how do we read that information? So who's going to do that? How are we going to read that? And then what are we going to do about it? So again, is it a preventive maintenance? Is it, what is causing that, right? But it was interesting. I think it was 11% had
Yeah.
those two words in it.
That's a really fascinating statistic.
Yeah.
If you could design a dashboard to reveal one just key people signal inside an organization, right? From through the lens of what OwlOps does, what insight would you want to surface?
Hmm. That's an insight related to a, a, a performance of a certain person, or
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, what I it's what's interesting is you brought up that like over 10% of these messages, right, have some indication that there is a persistent problem, right? Could be related to a manufacturing issue, could be related to a people problem,
Mhm.
right? um Obviously, I don't know. I'm not in the organization. I'm not looking at all of their data and their information, but it seems really interesting, and it would make me, as a manager, as an operator, really curious. Is this because there's a person that isn't, doing the things that they need to be
Mhm.
doing? But also, if we're having problems with, any of our, you know, um, any of our tools, also as an operator, I need to make sure I'm doing the right things so that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have those problems with those tools.
I would say that the information that we give is probably more related to a certain piece of equipment as opposed to the performance of a person or
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
It can definitely guide you down the right path to put action plans in place for those people. So whether again we need to implement a digital walkthrough on a
Hmm.
weekly basis for our managers, or we need to implement that preventive maintenance schedule every 90 days for our ice maker cleaning, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
The one people side of things, and this is something that's interesting, and then we see this especially in larger organizations that have 30 to 50 locations, where you can definitely see that some restaurants don't have many maintenance issues.
Hmm.
So the interesting part of that is that we all know that that's not true. So yeah, now there's varying degrees of
Sure.
whether a brand new location that's just out of renovation or whatnot will have less, but to have zero or very close to zero means that they're not engaging with the system, or that they're texting a maintenance person directly. And that does happen, in every organization, in every company. There's the sweethearting that goes on. I get my stuff at the top of that maintenance person's list because I text them directly. So there's definitely a people play in this. But being able to read that and see, oh well, you know what, these three locations, they never report issues. Maybe there's a training issue. Maybe there's something else, a people issue. Maybe they don't fully understand the reason why we need to do that for our technicians to have one list to go on. So there's definitely people play in it, not just tasks and work orders and a software system.
You made an interesting comment earlier about operators and leaders, not necessarily focusing enough on their high performers, catering a little too much to the lower performers. And I'm curious, like, maybe with some future focused thinking, what do you think tomorrow's leaders would need to grasp about people and culture and nurturing talent, that I think a lot of the things that you're seeing today or a lot of those leaders that you're seeing today are missing?
Well, obviously, I have my tech hat on generally when I'm thinking those things through, and I think there's a reservation from leadership to not necessarily push, but introduce technology because of their concern. I think things are changing, though. I mean, you look at my kids and their ability to adopt technology. Um, it's way different than what we've seen in the past 10 years, where you have a maintenance guy or an older store manager who people are concerned of rolling something out because, well, Gertrude is she doesn't adopt technology very well, or George, who's the old maintenance guy, he doesn't even know how to turn on his phone, and he needs his grandkids to turn it on for him. I think more and more of that's going away. So from a tech standpoint, I think technology is what our new labor, our new workforce is looking for. They don't want to fill out a paper form. They don't want to, they want an app to do certain things. So I think those things are changing. I think the engaging with your team about the why, again, it's communication. Why are we doing this? This is going to help not just you, because there's
Yeah.
always going to be the what's in it for me. Um, and so the onus is on leadership to make sure that the restaurant manager or the general manager of the convenience store understands you're doing this because this is going to, hey, remember a couple weeks ago when you said that your the cooling cabinet isn't working again? This is going to help us, right? This is going to help us keep track of that, and it's going to help you, and it's going to help our tech guy, and it's going to help our leadership so that we can give you better, overall. So
Yeah.
it's just, again, the communication of why, and then leaning on your strong, your strong, the people that are strong in your team to maybe take a lead role in some of this,
Yeah.
and maybe push it a little bit more so that they understand even further of why and can help.
I love that. I think that that's something that's, I think, really important even to us here is leading with why. It's a
Mhm.
big part of what we do and why we do it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Also,
for sure.
as you see companies get more deliberate about how they support their people, right? And we've seen a huge shift, over the last 15 years or so, really focusing on curating almost this experience, right? It looks different than it did 15 years ago, looks different than it did 30 years ago, 50 years ago, et cetera. And as they become more deliberate about supporting their people, in a lot of new ways and using a lot of new technologies to do that, how do you see your own work or even OwlOps adapting or evolving?
Well, I mean, the big word of tech these days is AI, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and we use it continually within the development of AI, or sorry, the development of OwlOps. We use it as our own tools to be more efficient within our small team. I think integrating it more and more with the tools that we have out there is probably going to be one of the next steps,
Okay.
um, for us anyway.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that integration, which, I mean, it's going to be interesting in the next 5 years, let alone the next two.
Yeah.
Where that's going at such an exponential curve.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays.
I mean, I think right now we're all making guesses, right? It's changing so rapidly, and tomorrow it could literally be something else, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the use of it for me is I think at this stage anyway, it's doing things from a computer science standpoint that I can still do.
Hmm.
It just speeds up that pace, and that
Right.
my dev team can do. It just speeds up that pace. But now, can we implement that so that it's helping whatever our customer is, whether it's restaurants or convenience store, so that it helps them to do things quicker as well.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're looking at, is how can we help serve our customers better, by with the use of it. So that's kind of the focus that we're taking.
I love that. And very relevant, right, to everything that's going on now. So that's I think that's really smart. So business leader comes to you on advice for how to get it right with their people and their team, and you just have a quick minute, right, before you walk your separate ways. What's the one thing? What's the one thing that you tell them? We have a multi-unit operator that looks to you for a little bit of advice, right? Because OwlOps has truly transformed how they are fixing some of these problems in their business. And he asks you, how do I get it right from day one? What's the one thing that you can tell me?
Um, well, I think it's we've said it. It's communication.
Yeah.
You have to have good communication and a good management structure. Most of these guys that we deal with, they have
Mhm.
good management structures in place with district managers, area managers, and teams. But making sure that there's town halls happening. There's that every now and then you hear from the top guy about why we're doing things, and just make sure that your team is engaged. And yeah, I think concentrate on the communication, and everything else is you're gonna hear about everything else, because if you've got good communication up and down, um, obviously use tech where it makes
Yeah.
sense, but get the communication going first, and then
I love that, Doug. That's great. That's great advice for everybody in any business, in any industry,
yeah, absolutely,
multi unit owner or not. Um, Appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you for being here, for sharing with us all of your your insight, your background, your story, and telling us about OwlOps. Everybody needs to go ahead and check out that piece of software. I think that it's pretty incredible and does some really great things. So I just wanted to thank you again for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And thanks for tuning in to Mustard Hub Voices Behind the Build. I hope you got something out of this conversation. Please share it with a friend or teammate, and check out mustardhub.com to see how we help companies become destinations for workplace happiness and turn culture into a competitive edge. Until next time.